There is no perfection, I don't think, in film work, because every film's different, every shot's different. You can't really have perfection. But there is, in the learning business, that you're learning to get to a certain point of expertise, maybe one might say. Then, once you've learnt that, then the quicker you can fall down the other side of the hill and start making films for the director, the better off you are.
John chose a particular set from Dead Poets Society, which allowed total lighting control and offered much scope for exploring and developing our technical expertise. A replica of the small dormitory set was built in the school studio. It had a floating wall along one side, and a scenic flat was placed outside the window. The set was 3 metres in height, 3 metres wide, and 4 metres in length. In the first setup, the objective was to shoot late afternoon. The scene was changed from its original season in the film to summer to give us more to work with and to allow us to shape the mood of the scene more definitively. The action was staged by the window so that our stand-ins for the workshop were also lit as if by the last rays of afternoon sun coming in through the window and bouncing around the room. The scenic flat was brought into position outside the window and was lit by 2 5K lights. Another 5K was pointed through the window, creating the effect of late afternoon rays entering the room.
We can frame this one, like whack the frame in as close as you can to this and bring it straight out there, right, and get this in on the angle so it blows in really softly.
This 5K was set behind a diffuser screen to achieve a softer light striking the wall opposite. Next, a 5K soft light was set above the window, pointing down towards the floor in the room.
Just up there, washing a big soft light straight down through there.
The ceiling was made of calico cloth, stretched tightly across the set, diffusing the light from 2 more 5Ks shining into the room. The practical in the centre was lit throughout this scene. With so many lights to balance and measure, setting an exposure can be a daunting prospect.
Is that all right?
I'm not sure.
Some people will try and split it, like, you know that?
Yeah.
You see, which is pretty accurate. I mean, you end up about 4 really. But if you're reading that there, you know, you're 2/8. Yeah, but some people read, like, want to read a bit of that and a bit of that, right? This is the only source of daylight in the room, but you have to have practicals on. It gives you nicer things to play with, you know. Because you can imagine somebody, you know, say sitting at this desk here, like there, you know what I mean? You can do amazing things with a light like that and still have daylight. It's logical, you know. But as long as you pull down the whole room to say that it is logical.
Yeah.
That's why it's really, most of it's what your eye sees, what you want to see, you know.
What you want to see is important in developing a lighting scheme or an approach. John emphasised the importance of planning the approach, explaining that if you haven't thought of it in pre-production, you won't have time to think of it during the shoot. Once on the set, you have to work at such speed that without the preliminary groundwork, the film and the shoot will be compromised. You have to walk onto the set with at least an idea of how you're going to deal with a particular scene. Being prepared also allows you to deal with problems that inevitably arise. In this instance, as in the film, the light on Stephen is very flat.
Sometimes you can get caught like this, and it's not bad to get caught, I mean, you know. It is reality. It's just that he's dead flat. There's nothing, the walls either side of him are the same density because it's such a flat light. We were getting that, you see that there? Which was a little more intense because we can spot that up and go for that. And he had a very white sheet. In fact, we replaced it and sheeted on the inside. So that if he holds it at the right angle in the sun there like that, you can even see it there, it's not much, but you imagine with a white sheet of paper that he got a little glow underneath, kicked in the eyes.
Next we moved in on a close-up of Warren. John chooses to keep the stop constant for the duration of the scene so that the negative density doesn't change. He controls the intensity, quality and direction of light by adjusting the lamps themselves to achieve the desired exposure. The backlight is way over. John just let it skim and burn, having decided he was after an effect of the last rays of sun. The soft light on the key side of his face was increased, just so that it wrapped around a bit and was more dramatic. Once again, he stressed the importance of controlling the fill light to balance the exposure. Normally he would have used a penna light, but improvised with an inky on this occasion. At first, the subtle fill was difficult to see against the strong backlight.
If you look through your rolled up fingers like that, if you're testing a little lamp like this, if you let a backlight like that shine into your eyes, you're going to stop down. And also on sets, it's good to wear hats because you knock out all that hot light up the top because that's stopping your eyes down. You see, and you look here and you let that backlight hit you in the eye and you're trying to check a fill side, it's hopeless because your eyes stop down, looks twice as dark as it should be. So all you do is you just look through the black of the tunnel of your fingers at Warren's face, and what happens is your eye opens up and you can see what the film's going to see.
John locks in the lighting at the final rehearsal. He feels that making adjustments between takes is both detrimental to continuity and disruptive for the actors. Where some DOPs use the first few takes as their own final rehearsals, John believes take one to be the most important to get right while the energy is up. For him, every take is a print take. In the second setup, the room is lit for a winter day. The mood is more subdued. The room is still lit as if through the window, but it's a cool, dark day. There are no piercing rays of sun, and the interior light is switched off. Where previously the window was burning out, obscuring the exterior, here we wanted to see more detail outside the window.
We kill that frame. That's better. That's great. See how soft that is now coming back in on here? It's over there. It's okay.
The basic position of the lights remained the same as for the previous setup. The 5K to the right of the window was brought in closer and was set behind a diffuser screen.
You spot that up a touch, mate, just to drive that through a little more.
To create the coolness of winter light, blue gels were applied to the lamps. Half blue gels on the two 5Ks on the flat, quarter blue on the other two 5Ks and on the soft light pointed through the window. The ceiling practical was turned off, so that only one 5K diffused through the calico ceiling filled the room. A 1K soft light spilled in through the door, simulating electric light in an adjoining hallway. The soft light, being less than 3200 degrees Kelvin, was about a quarter more red, casting a warm light. John believes it's wise to be subtle with colour balance during the shoot, so as to allow greater control and flexibility later in the grade. He cautioned that if you go too far in one direction in the negative, you can be trapped, unable to get rid of it later in the print.
This one as a first example, right? And then we'll put this little thing on the front here.
The overall effect is sombre, a bleak, cold exterior contrasting with a low-key, warmer interior. Having shot this control shot, John decided he wanted to reduce the amount of light at the window without affecting the quantity of light coming through it into the room. To illustrate the principle involved, John cut a 0.3 piece of neutral density gel to correspond with the shape of the window when fixed in front of the lens. Here, we asked the actor to walk through the shot to highlight the area covered by the gel. Originally, this effect was specifically designed for a static shot, so that the filter is totally unnoticeable. In the third setup, the action involving both our characters in two-shot will take place in the doorway. The room had to appear to be lit by the overhead electric light. This time there was no light coming from the window, only a suggestion of moonlight outside. The soft light above the window was gelled with a full blue this time. The two desk lamps set by the door were further enhanced by two 300-watt Mizar lamps set alongside. Again, one 5K light above the ceiling provided most of the interior light, and a 1K soft light outside the door provided the spill from the hallway. Every lighting setup is founded on the visual logic established by the practicals or light sources shown in the scene. The light source, for instance a desk lamp or a street light, will dictate the direction and quality of light. The light in the room was graded so that the back of the room is darker than the front, where the action takes place.
That poly, mate, we might just throw that on the ceiling, slide it towards the light source.
A piece of polystyrene foam was used to cover about a third of the calico in the area above the window. Grading the room gave the space more depth and a greater sense of realism.
Grab Warren Warren will end up about here.
Yep.
What lens you got on the 18?
At the moment, yes. Do you want something different?
Maybe a little tighter and a little longer, so we just compress. If we bring Steve from here, as though he's sitting there in a misery bag, you know, if he walks forward, we just compress the, rather than use the short lens, use a slightly longer one. And if with Warren, we end up with a nice tight shot here, so that as the boy leaves, he can go bang into the lens for that dramatic moment. Yeah. Or words to that effect.
This light here, is that filling just Warren or Stephen as well?
This lamp?
Yeah.
It's really for Stephen here. There's a little glow up there because, you know, with Warren so close in foreground with the back of his head, there's no real effect on him.
Right.
We had that one lined up for Warren, you see. But sometimes when you get a situation with two people in shot and you backlight both, three-quarter backlight, right, the old-fashioned way, looks dreadful.
John has chosen to kick up the backlight on Stephen, camera left, a little more than the one on Warren. John showed us one of his unconventional techniques, which allowed us to backlight two people in a very confined space.
Is put two people here, right, just to and show that like you can't get a backlight on them. But if we could put an inky up there, clamp it onto there, and hang it down, right, and then what we'll do is then block it out with this foreground piece, and that show how we can light these two. Whereas normally you couldn't get a lamp straight through the window.
Following John's instructions, a piece of board was painted precisely the same colour as the walls of the room. Then an inky was attached to the wall and gelled with a quarter 85. The painted board was carefully positioned in front of the lens, aligned so that it obscured the inky on the wall and also lined up with the lines above the dorm window, which helped to further disguise the board.
Already?
Finally, the board was lit to match the exposure and density of the back wall.
Piece.
As impressive as these techniques are, for John, they're only a means to an end, and he'll use any technique that's appropriate to the film he is making.
I think the one-light print is that we have in Australia is one of the most important tools of the learning cameraman's trade, because if the lab is going to keep a one-light print on all of his processing and on your prints, then you know exactly where your negative is at when you start shooting with it. You know exactly where your meter is at, as far as you know, setting the ASA on your meter and then exposing that negative. You know that with the one light print that you can change the negative to find out what the print will do. You see, but and then you find out where your head's at. You're going to be learning on basically low budget films that are shot in a very short time. So that confidence from the four elements of cinematography locked into your brain enables you to shoot good pictures very quickly. It's a learning process, so that once you know, you can look at a face and you can say, oh, the key light is 1.5 stops over approximately, and your eye says that to you. Once again, there's no variables. It's continual search for technical perfection sometimes restricts the making of the film. And that is unavoidable when you're learning, because you think, oh gosh, that back wall's too hot, or that's too far underexposed, I'll have to light that, and then I'll have to trim that. And in the end, you take so long to do this technical thing that the film is being forgotten. Same with operating, say combined with the lighting side of it, you might have a little bump in the middle of a shot, and you listen to the way the director says cut. And if he says cut in a sort of an happy mood, you know he's got the performance. Then you have to decide in your mind, in the early days of learning, you'd say, no, I'll have to go again, I had a big bump in the middle. So it's little things like that to attain the technical capability as quickly as possible, and then throw it all away and start making films.